Next up, I'll be talking with one of my colleagues at Terra Firma Global Partners about the local real estate market in Napa. I'd like to introduce you to Nadia Valenzuela. Nadia is a lifelong Napa Valley resident. Nadia, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been in real estate for 15 years, which is enough time to assume you're someone who has seen it all, or at least most of it. But then the year 2020 happened. How has your outlook on our real estate market changed from the beginning of the year to today?
Boy, in January, there was, for me personally, I was having consistent transactions. I had listings, I had buyers that I was working with, two deals that closed specifically in January, and then things that were lining up in both in February and March. So it was a nice strong start for me personally, and certainly when March happened, as we started hearing more about the pandemic, more about the coronavirus, how it was affecting others outside of our country, how it could be affecting us. Then we had the shelter in place occur, and we were then told we are not, as realtors, we're not considered an essential business. So there's nothing that we can do. And we have to sort of hold tight, shelter in place, as it says. And I was in the middle of closing a transaction at that point in time, as many other agents in our county were. And so we had to take additional precautions in that same tone, but then it also affected from the lending industry side for deals to close if those buyers had loans, because it was affecting documentation, because there was the shift for everyone to figure out, were they going to be working in offices? Were they going to be working off-site? How was that going to work out on a daily basis as well too? So that was a big change that prolonged some deals, maybe a week, maybe a little bit, maybe more of a week and a half. And some deals, as it was a couple weeks into the shelter in place, it didn't really affect them that much, maybe a day or two here and there. But certainly from the lending standpoint and the interest rate side, that did have an effect for finding some solid interest rates and finding some good rates as we went into the shelter in place.
You and I've talked about how so many different aspects of the real estate market have quickly changed since March, since shelter in place. One of the places where this is most evident is with the lending side of the business. Can you talk a little bit about the changes you've seen there, and also with interest rates since shelter in place occurred?
So from the lending industry, and certainly from an interest rate standpoint, there's a few different things to look at. When we were told that there was a shelter in place that was in effect, and I want to say it was about March 15, that put sort of a slowdown, and I also want to say, yellow light in regards to transactions moving forward, because of paperwork that was involved on the lender side, that they were trying to figure out, if they couldn't come to the office, how were they going to be moving forward and reviewing files. So organization from that standpoint. But then for buyers who were trying to get pre-approved, there was a shift in that stock market too, where there were a lot of dips in the stock market, which then affected the interest rates as well. And you saw interest rates fluctuating from 3.5, 3.25, up to 4%. I mean, there were large shifts in one day. And this happened over, I would say maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't that long of a time period, but there was a time period where that notation of us being not essential, and we couldn't do any work, but yet buyers were still trying to qualify, because all of those things that can be done online, and we can all talk on the phone and use our computers at the same time. But that time period, until we became essential specifically to show vacant homes with the help of the California Association of Realtors. There was that shift in the interest rates where it was just fluctuating dramatically from one day to the next multiple times throughout the day, where yes, it is normal for the interest rate to fluctuate maybe once or twice, maybe a few times in the day, but it's not by such drastic numbers.
Mhm.
And now where we're seeing here in June, and really this kind of happened we started seeing it in, I would say, mid-May. Now here we are in June, where we're seeing drastically low interest rates, 2.75, 2.95, interest rates in essentially under 3%. And lenders are saying to their clients, well, this is the only time I'm going to see you because you're not going to be coming back to refi with me. You're not going to refinance at this with finding this interest rate again. That was definitely a huge shift where it helped for buyer confidence to move forward as we got closer to lifting through the stages that Governor Newsom had put in effect, not only from statewide, but then also as a county that we were following. So as those stages were progressing through, their buyer confidence got better. Still, from a seller's perspective, obviously, everyone is still treading lightly as they move forward. But I think that those low interest rates have helped give the momentum in our industry to move forward, because in that late March, early April time period, you could feel the slowdown. You could feel that there was a change and a shift in the marketplace.
And actually, you saying that reminds me of something I saw in a recent newsletter, which talked about how April was the worst decline in consumer confidence. It talked about how the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index had ticked up slightly in May, just as you had described it. But in April, it was the worst confidence decline that they had seen in 50 years.
I think we did see that. We saw that from the amount of inventory that we saw coming on the market. We saw that from the ability to show property as well, because
Right.
if we were only able to show vacant homes, then still buyers would still look at occupied homes, but they would have to look at them virtually. Not everyone is comfortable doing that, and rightly so. I mean, that's definitely understandable on that side. But the other side is somebody needs to touch and feel, not necessarily saying that they're touching and feeling the house throughout, but somebody who's able to walk through a house and see the floor plan while they're walking through in
Sure.
person
Yep.
makes a difference. I mean, if we look back from just April, let's say April 1st through June 1st of 2019 to 2020, just those months between last year and the current, specifically in Napa, there were from up to 500,000, there were 31 homes that sold last year. This year, only 20. 500 to just under a million, 999. It was 121 last year versus 69 this year. And then a million to 3 million, 24 homes in Napa last year, 22 homes this year in Napa. So that hasn't changed too much. And then as we go higher into that 3 million to 5 million, 2 homes last year, 2 homes this year, and that 5 million plus, nothing happened in either last year nor this year in that price point.
When I hear you describing some of those numbers, Nadia, it's making me think about what we're seeing today or more recently. Again, so much has changed so quickly since the middle of March. These past few weeks, we've been hearing and seeing really that there are a lot of buyers out there. Many of us at Terra Firma have been really busy. One of the theories about why this is happening is that people are looking to move out of more densely populated areas into communities that have a little more space. Do you agree with this? Is this something you're seeing? And if it is, what's the effect it's having on our Napa market?
Absolutely, I would agree with you, being a trend, and I would really give that to the fact that businesses, companies are really adapting to sheltering in place. They're adapting to the ability to telecommute and the opportunities that, whether it's from a financial aspect or maybe it could be from a company. And I don't want to use an emotional aspect, but perhaps um, a company confidence
Mm.
aspect as well, not having to go into the office, being able to still work, do something that you love and that you enjoy, but you are just as productive in the office and perhaps even more outside of the office now that we've been in shelter in place. And we're seeing a lot more, we're seeing more people either relocating to
Mhm.
our Napa County, even Sonoma County. We're seeing more that are potentially looking at, wanting to have that sort of elbow room, your space between your neighbors that you don't necessarily get to have in areas such as the Bay Area, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, perhaps. And so having that availability to um, telecommute, or maybe they're going into the office maybe 1 or 2 days a week versus having to do it every day. So it's more about health and lifestyle. What's going to give me peace of mind as well so that I can be more productive? And plus, with the interest rates being as low as they are, why not check and see what I can
Mhm.
qualify for and see if maybe I can find a home that I perhaps want to live in, and see where things go with the pandemic, how long this could be, until until perhaps not a cure, but a vaccination is found.
Mhm.
But until we really identify as we go through these stages as well, do I want to move back to a more densely populated area, or do I prefer to be in um, a city lifestyle, but then also having a little bit more of that rural country feel as well?
We've been talking about what things look like for buyers, but let's switch gears and talk about a trend that sellers might experience in this market. Statewide, there's talk of properties staying on the market a little bit longer than what would be considered normal. Now, this isn't always the case, but generally speaking, business is moving a little bit slower than it was pre coronavirus. And so you're hearing this idea of how sellers need to be patient right now, even with a potential influx of buyers. Is this something that you've seen for listings in Napa?
I have certainly seen it. It's actually been a combination. A listing that I have. It was, as I was signing up the listing, it happened to be an occupied property, and I told my sellers, I shared with them that due to the coronavirus, it may take a little more time for us to have showings, for us to get eyes on the property, other than just through an online service, whether it be a virtual tour or a third party website like a Zillow or Redfin or truly a realtor.com, etc. And so that was a conversation that I did have. But also, I've seen that when a property is in a desirable neighborhood, when there isn't any work that needs to be done, meaning that it's been updated, it's been remodeled. When we see those properties come on the market and they're priced appropriately, that seems to attract the buyers that are willing to go ahead and be part of the negotiation, be part of even multiple offers. So there
Hmm.
were still multiple offers that have been happening in the month of May. And I want to say more so as we've come through the month of May into the month of June, that we've seen that at a few properties, and I've heard about it at a few properties as well. That just again shows that consumer confidence from a buyer aspect, and obviously pleasing from a seller's side. But yes, the protocol in order to view homes has
Mhm.
absolutely changed, too, not only for the protection of the seller, but also for the buyers, buyer or buyers, and as well as the agents, both the listing agent and the selling agent representing the buyer too.
Thank you, Nadia, for talking with me today. For those of you who are listening, as you can probably tell, the market's changing all the time. And while we've recorded this and tried to give it to you as quickly as possible to be as accurate as possible, the best way to understand what's going on in your local real estate market is to talk with a real estate agent or a realtor, which we all are at Terra Firma Global Partners. We have a fabulous team of people, and any of us would love to answer your questions about what's happening in the market today.